Have you ever wondered what it's really like to leave everything you know behind? I mean, everything, your home, your family, your entire world. Well, today, we're going to get a front row seat. We're diving into the incredible journey of Brita Liland, a 19th century immigrant, and we'll hear it all in her own words.
So, picture this. It's 1894 in Wisconsin. An old woman gathers her grandchildren around and starts with these words. That's Brita Liland. And she's not just inviting them to listen, she's inviting us too. This is a story that literally crosses an ocean and connects two completely different worlds. It's a firsthand account of unbelievable change and, wow, resilience.
So let's meet our narrator, Brita Olsdatter Leland. She's 76 years old when she tells this story, and she's looking back on a life that started way up in the mountains of Norway and ended up on the flat farmlands of America. And here's something that's just kind of wild about Brita's life. By this point, it was split perfectly in half. I mean, exactly. 38 years in Norway and 38 years in America. She saw her life as this perfectly balanced scale. One side was the land of her birth, where her roots were, and the other, the land that became her home, where her future lay. Okay, so to really get where she's going, we have to understand what she left behind. Let's step back in time and explore that first half of her life, in the beautiful but very, very difficult landscape of Voss, Norway. So by her mid-30s, Brita's life in Voss was pretty much set. She was the oldest of 6 kids, she'd married an older, stable guy named Sjur, and they quickly had 3 sons. You know, their path seemed completely laid out for them, totally rooted in generations of tradition. Brita talks about a life that was tough, for sure. They were working rocky soil in a place that was just stunningly beautiful. And the idea of leaving, it was just not a thing. It was unimaginable. They fully expected to live and die in Voss, just like their parents and grandparents had done before them. And this is the moment everything changes. Letters start showing up from Sjur's brother, who'd already made the journey, and he wrote about Wisconsin. He wrote about opportunity. But most importantly, especially for a farmer from a rocky, mountainous country, he wrote about good, flat land without rocks. And that little phrase was the seed that would change their entire world. So this brings us to what was probably the biggest, most monumental decision of their lives, the Great Journey. And this wasn't just a trip, okay? This was a complete uprooting of their whole existence. You can just feel the weight of it all in this one question she asks. I mean, just think about it. You're 37, your husband is 51, you've got 3 little kids, and you're actually considering leaving behind your parents, your siblings, your home, your own language, for a place you've only heard about in letters. The risk was absolutely immense. Brita uses this incredibly powerful phrase when she talks about saying goodbye to her parents. She was in her late 30s, they were in their 60s, and everyone in that room knew they would never, ever see each other again. And they didn't. That was the profound personal sacrifice they had to make for just the promise of a better future. Now, the ocean crossing itself was terrifying. Brita had never even been on a ship before, and now her whole family was packed below deck on this vessel called the Hebe. But you know what? They got lucky. While a lot of these voyages took 2 months, sometimes more, theirs, miraculously, only took 3 weeks. At arriving in Quebec, oh, that was just the beginning. They still had this long, grueling trek overland. After the ship, they had to take a steamboat, then a canal boat, and finally a railroad train, which, to Brita, was just this frighteningly loud and fast machine. It was this relentless push, deeper and deeper into the heart of a new continent, until they finally arrived in Deerfield, Wisconsin. So they made it. They actually made it. But the promise of a new world, well, it came with a whole new kind of sorrow. The highs and lows of their life in America came fast, and they were incredibly intense. Just a few months after they arrived, while they were still getting their bearings, they had this moment of pure, absolute joy. After 3 sons, Brita gave birth to her first daughter, Ingeborg. They named her after Brita's mother back in Norway. It was like a sign of new life in this new land. But that joy, it was immediately followed by the deepest tragedy imaginable. Their youngest son, Matthias, not even 3 years old, got sick and died that very same fall. He had survived the entire dangerous journey, only to be lost in their new home. You can just hear the heartbreak. Losing her son made Brita question absolutely everything. Was this all a terrible mistake?
Would he still be alive if they had just stayed in Foss? It was a grief that was made so much worse by the fact that they were so isolated in such a strange new place.
As they started to build their new life, they also had to forge a new identity. So in the 1870s, the family adopted the surname Leland. Now, this wasn't just some random name change. It was a really conscious choice to connect their American future to their past. The name came from the Leland farm back in Voss. It was a way of carrying their heritage forward with them.
All right, let's move into the final chapter here, where Brita looks back on the family she raised, the life she lived, and what she really wants her grandchildren and, by extension, us to remember from it all. Brita's surviving kids, they went on to build their own lives. Her sons, Tjörger and Oli, became respected members of their community. Her daughter, Ingeborg, even ended up marrying a man from their old hometown of Voss. But, heartbreak wasn't done with her. Her youngest daughter, Anna, died at just 33 years old. Brita had to bury a second child.
And yet, after so much sorrow, Brita still found a kind of peace. She finally came to this place where she could say, yes, America is my home now. That balance had tipped. Even though her roots would always be in Norway, her life, her family, her legacy, that was all firmly planted in American soil.
And this is her final command, really. It's the whole reason this story even exists. Brita understood that memory is the glue that connects generations. By telling her story, she was making sure that her descendants would always know where they came from, the sacrifices that were made for them, and the journey that truly defines who they are. Brita's story is so personal, but it's also a mirror for millions of families. It really leaves us with a final question to think about. What stories of courage, of loss, and of transformation have crossed oceans and generations in your own family?